Well, hello everyone. We are running a hair bit late. We had some issues, but we are here. And welcome to uh, this is a live show, a live chat, and sometimes it'll be me talking about spiritual issues, and sometimes we have very, very special guests. So, welcome to a special episode of Seekers Speak Live. So, happy Friday the 13th. Uh, you're going, is it happy? Hey, I'm happy to be here. So today we have an incredibly special guest who's been really patient. We've been laughing, working through some issues going on with us. We're here and very excited to see you and talk with you and get your questions. But our guest today is a near-death experiencer and also a intuitive healer, among many things. And she is so much fun. You're going to just love her. But I want to introduce Shawna Ristic. What a way to introduction. There you go. So welcome. And we were talking about what a crazy Friday the 13th it's been. And you were, as we were chatting beforehand, you were saying that your 13th, that you had, let's just start with our crazy day, but you had, what was a no-show, and what was the other thing?
Oh, just cancellations at the last minute and no-shows and
oh my gosh. Well,
changes in schedules and people having unexpected things come up, and just it's a day. It's a Friday the 13th day.
And here you go. You thought this would be the fun part of the day, and then here we are. So, but this is going to be the fun part of the day. So, anyway, for those that start joining us again, thank you. This is Seekers Speak. Today, we just really wanted to just have a chat with you live, see if there was any questions that you had, and also talk about. I wanted to talk about adaptability because as today is a great.
That was today.
You're like, good topic. Adaptability. When things go wrong, it could be you ever had a day like maybe today where you had your day planned and then things come up, and how do you deal with that energetically? Because to me, you have, you're kind of in your, I don't know about you, Shawna, but you're in your protective God bubble, and then all of a sudden, it's like things permeate that little bubble and they create hiccups along the way. So, even with just life, the way it's been with the pandemic, it's not just our needs. We're having to take care of other people's needs. We're having to readjust how we do things. We got to wear that mask everywhere we go. So how do you handle it energetically? Because you're a healer. You work a lot with energy. I mean, so do I. But how do you handle that?
I look at it as, Spirit's way of challenging us and to be centered. And so for me, the idea of boundaries, for instance, is really difficult for me because it feels like everything just sort of bleeds one into another. And when we focus on boundaries, we're focusing on that which separates us, and when there's disruptions in your day, our tendency is to want to be kind of boundaried or bubble ourselves. But what I have found that helps really well is to just kind of come back to center. I call it the core channel. So I have a whole meditation I work with just on how to come into this light center, this essence that we each are, that's in the middle of us, this core channel. And then once we can ground here, then we can move out and expand that light to the body and around the body and be back in the world. But when we have disruptions, or even when we meet someone that feels disruptive, or an experience or a place, we often are more externalized. We're focused out here rather than how we are, so the more we can move into here, then we can move out into the world rather than being hollow in here and sort of overwhelmed by the world. So I think that's my biggest tip.
Well, let's talk about like centering. One of the things that we were doing, and we're like, oh my gosh, what a day. And we were doing what I do, and I know you were doing it too, it's just a quick thing. It's not like a full-on meditation, but one of the things that I do is I visualize, I close my eyes and I visualize this beautiful white light coming in from the top of my head, my crown chakra. And it's just a healing white golden light. And it comes in and it just starts permeating all my DNA with so much love and so much warmth and so much beauty. And that might be like also angelic energy coming in, and it just shoots right out of my chest. And it fills the room. And then I start expanding as a soul being with it. And I'm like, I'm actually kind of getting high right now. It feels kind of good.
Yeah.
But yeah. The thing that I do, just a little something I do, not the full on, But if I had to like, okay, I gotta, get it together quick. What are some little energy tips that you do?
One that works that's really quick and on the fly is to say your name 3 times. Um, your name is a sound vibration that each person has resonated with their whole life, and so when you say your name 3 times, it sort of there's a part of you that goes, "Whoop, that's me," and drops right in really quickly. And it's fun to play with. Like if you have a name that maybe you have a different name you were born with, and you've changed your names, it's fun to play with how each resonance aligns you with it. Or if there's some people have spiritual names, or whichever name you feel resonates most with you. Using that, that's what I do when I need to drop in on the fly, like when I'm having a rush day and I'm in between clients and I don't really have time to totally drop in. I may do that. But you're right. It really does come from the sense of alignment here, and then recognizing that there's a part of us also that roots down in the earth, and that the earth, not only do we root in the earth, typically when we think about grounding, we typically ground into the earth. But also the earth is giving back to us. There's a force in the earth that's vitality that gives life, right? And so bringing that back up as well is super useful to ground, especially for those of us who maybe have less grounded tendencies and we tend to be a little bit more up here. For me, I find sometimes that the grounding those people more in their feet and down into the earth is a little more helpful. That being said, other people who maybe have had experiences that make them distrustful of the earth, it's easier for them to ground up.
Now, really, okay, a question. Why is that? Distrustful of the earth? I never heard that one. What does that mean?
A lot of people who have had trauma and who have had experiences, especially shock, that where something happened that sort of rocked their world all of a sudden and made them feel like it's not necessarily safe on the earth for them, that there may be, a boulder that falls off the mountain quickly, or a car wreck, or someone jumps out of nowhere and attacks, or, lots of different circumstances, or if they've had a rough childhood, just circumstances that have led them to believe that the earth is not here to support them. And so for that reason, grounding up is sometimes, or bringing that energy down from above is sometimes easier than grounding down.
Okay.
And my goal is to try to get the both directions working, but you got to start with where you can.
I got it. Okay, so that makes sense. So, so an example would be, you're saying if there was a time you had some kind of trauma, where there's an accident, a childhood trauma, whatever, or that maybe that it would be better from getting the strength from above, divinity, and starting that way, and then feeling our soul self connectability into the ground. That's how I personally like to do it. It's funny. I got to tell you this, so you'll enjoy this. So I have the shaman friend, Kelly. She used to live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but she decided that she wanted to live on a volcano in Hawaii. She's such a trip. And so I have very colorful friends. But anyway, she is a shaman, incredibly intuitive. I mean, she definitely has the mediumistic abilities, but she would always laugh because she said that I live like, out here, and she's connected more to the earth. She always said we were a good balance for one another, because she would laugh. She's teaches comedy and so forth, and she actually asked me many years ago to start doing medium demonstrations publicly, and I hadn't done that. And I said, I don't know. And she's done a lot of things publicly, and she said, go ahead and blah blah blah. So she would be around me. We did this for a while.
You'd probably balance each other out a little bit.
Did, and she would say, but she was cool because she could do both. She could go up or she could go down, like that. She was balanced, but she would always see me lose my keys, because I'm out here. I'm not really, especially when I do spirit work, I'm not really present. I laugh and cut up, and people think I am, but I am in a whole different la world. So she would always. I mean, I could have a gazillion dollars cash and I would just walk off and leave it. So I had to have people always.
Right.
You understand that?
Right. Yeah. I do.
Because so I would have to have people do that for me, and she just thought it was the funniest thing. She goes, "You're just like clockwork on this stuff." And I'm like,
yeah.
So, but
yeah, it's kind of like the difference between people. Like shamanism tends to, the shamans that I know, and people who work with more shamanistic energy, or shaman healers, they tend to work more with those energies that are closer to earth, a little bit more earth-based, and nature spirits and things like that. Whereas working with someone like, let's say, who does energy healing, angel healings, would be in these more higher distant realms. It really depends on each person and where their center of gravity is and where they're hoping to open more towards, what would work best. But
And what do you think? I've always wondered why do some people gravitate toward being a shaman? Because I can't identify with that at all. That I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. It's because I'm like the airhead in the sky. So I'm going, okay, I love nature, but to me, it's not where I live. So I'm curious because I have several people I know that, work with actually nature, and I've done, the nature rituals and that kind of thing with them. What do you think? Can you hear me? Yes, yes.
yep, I can still hear you.
Okay, so what do you think about who usually gravitates toward being a shaman?
Oh, towards being a shaman?
Yeah.
Uh, hmm. A lot of people that I know who went towards shamanism are people that have maybe that they do a lot to help other people. That they're, like a psychotherapist or something along that line, and that they're looking for tools and techniques to help people sort of expand their consciousness in that way. Another people that I've seen drawn towards shamanism. Well, it's kind of a thing with the 20-something-year-olds nowadays too. A lot of the people that I see working with shaman, actually not even just them. Um, I don't. I think it's just people who are looking to expand their consciousness, and it's a lot of people who are interested in plant medicines.
And
You
what?
know, in plant medicines.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
organic. Okay, that makes sense. Like herbs and all that. You're right. Absolutely.
yeah,
Sense.
yeah, or ones that can be more mind-altering plant medicines, and things like that. I see a lot of people that are interested in that want that ability to have a, an extreme experience, or an experience that pushes them into another state of consciousness without, lots of meditation or lots of effort on their part. Not that it's not effort, but that using the plant medicines can sometimes shift consciousness really quickly
Yeah.
and effectively.
Right. No, that's true. That's just a different approach to how they handle things. Absolutely. I know they work with like the East, the West, whatever, but you're right. They do work with a lot of herbs, plant medicine. It was funny because I was called one time and Kelly came over with a bag of all these different herbs and different ways to cook them.
Right,
And she said, this will knock this right out. And it did.
right,
Um,
right.
I had to follow along. So I think it's really, shamans really honor the earth and the
Hmm.
natural supplies that we have available to us, which I do too. But I think that they take it on as a leader position.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I love essential oils. I love, natural things. And I think things are available. One of the things, I love gemstones. I've always loved gemstones at like 3 years old. I had a gemstone. My grandmother loved gemstones. And I just think, wow, they're so pretty. Like, why would you want, I know a diamond comes from the earth, but all the colors, it's like flowers that you can just be available, and not to mention the healing energy too. So,
Sure, sure. It's all just, everybody has their medicine. Everybody has what works for them. And it's just about knowing what works for you. And I see people who work with shamans, and I'll do ceremonies with the shamans, and then they come see me to integrate,
well,
for
now,
instance.
do you use any type of essential oils or gemstones, like with the energy? When you do,
Sometimes I will. I sometimes will use essential oils, but people tend to be really sensitive to a lot of things like that. So
okay.
I often don't use them, just because of sensitivities. Um, I tend to tune into people's frequencies and then look at where blockages are, or stagnant energy is, and then help them move through that. And usually it's something in an experience. I kind of close my eyes and see what images are coming, and I'm like, hey, why am I seeing you rowing boats? What's going on? Did your ancestors come over here? Is this ancestral stuff, or is this, were they rowing some boats, or, and then, and it's it's odd. That's been coming up a lot lately, actually, rowing boats with
With the
people.
ancestors, you mean like people's family and spirit?
Yeah, people whose ancestors is in like they came from Europe and they brought a boat over. They, took the boat over years and years ago.
Well,
Um,
the very good healers do use that. They do,
mhm,
the better ones. They use the mediumship and their intuitive gifts,
mhm.
as well as anything else offered to them. Don't you agree?
Agreed. Agreed.
And
Agreed.
that's what you do naturally. And what you're doing to me is that you're letting spirit naturally move through you as a
Right.
vessel.
Right. Right. You know, um, it's funny because I've been asked to talk, like you asked me to talk about my NDE, and it's really funny because I feel really uncomfortable talking about it, and I end up talking really fast and like
I
not
know.
really knowing what to
Like,
say.
oh, so you were like the road runner.
I know. I saw that. I was kind of watching. I was like, that's hard to
Oh,
even watch. I can't
no,
even
you
see
did
what I'm supposed to say.
great. You did so great. You did. And we had a laugh. And look, this is all about healing. This is truly not about us. It's just about
Exactly. Exactly. It's not about me. I mean, if my story can help someone, I'm happy to tell it. But that's really hard because I don't want it to be about me. My whole day is spent about everybody else. You know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that, coming out and doing this and working through the technology and working through the different things, but we got, to do this, podcast, not to mention we have all new computer system, all new sound system. We're still working through stuff. But, the thing is, you just put yourself out there. And even when you were nervous, you were frightened. And I commend you because you did it anyway. And I think that says something. I think that sometimes you don't follow your head, but you
You
follow
follow
your
your
heart.
heart.
And your
Totally.
heart knew, I've got to do this, but I'm scared shitless, so I'm going to do
Well,
it.
and a lot of it is like, using the mind as a tool rather than an entity. Your mind is the tool between your spirit and your heart. Use it as an interpretation device and in service to the spirit and the heart rather than as an entity that takes over itself. Like I see that Colleen asked in the comments, she's been told she's a healer and a light worker
Yeah.
and she wants to know which direction to take. And massage therapy was the route that came for me. But I was really more led that way. And if you feel led towards healing and light work, then you don't want to go into your head and keep thinking and thinking and thinking about it. It's not going. You can justify and rationalize anything that way, but you follow where you feel the vibration open. Like I talked about that core channel, and you drop into your center, and then where do you feel drawn to? And if you don't know, start investigating and see where you feel drawn to. I mean, for me, it was living this question of what am I supposed to do with my life? And then running into meeting a massage therapist by hazard. And she said to me, maybe you're not doing the right thing you should be doing. And mentioned going to massage school. When I walked in, I knew that was it. But you'll know. So it's really more about, I mean, one basic tool is if it's if it's if it expands you and opens you, then there's truth in it. And if it contracts you and closes you, then there's untruth or something that doesn't resonate with you in it.
Well, I think this, it really, it's funny because somebody was asking me something that was not a healer question last night, which will be on coming up, I think, next Thursday. A lady that's an angel channeler and spirit artist, is a fantastic lady. And she was saying, I've been taking mediumship classes. I don't know if I should be psychic or medium. And that's like saying what part of a healer you should be. And to
Right.
me, right, it's similar. And I had to chuckle, bless her. I just love this woman, Asta, but because you use all your resources as a tool bag. And sometimes people may need, like probably when you're in session, I said, look, psychic is not a dirty word. If they're really, really worried about a new job or paying their bills, not that you're going to tell them what to do, you can give them options, but they're not going to be that happy if you bring through their grandmother that tells them stuff necessarily.
Right. Right.
That's not what they need right then. So
You're right. I mean, I spend a lot of time just basically teaching people how to trust themselves.
yes,
I mean,
yes,
a lot of people say I don't have good intuition, but your intuition is working all the time. It's just that you're not used to wearing it. To paying attention to it. We have a whole culture that's set up to say that you can't trust that. You've got to think about it. You've got to go through, and we all go through college and academia and all these things, which are great to cultivate the mind. But then it really uh, tends to create a box that we can't get out of, and it's harder to follow intuition. I heard a comment once long ago, and I think this is so true. We spend more time arguing with our intuition and waste more time doing that than if we just listened to it and followed through.
Right. And it's not always easy to do. We're talking about following your intuition. I do want to talk about this thing, and thanks for mentioning this, Colleen, about getting lost in France. But the whole idea that here you are, in the States. I mean, you are like you even with you living, what is it, in the Midwest, in the middle of, and then you moved to California very boldly. But I mean, you've always done these bold actions with nothing but following your heart. And then the whole going to France, it still blows my mind. Talk about that and how you felt really pulled. And it could be, sometimes we try to justify, like, is it a past life or blah, 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 or what is it? You know what? Does it really, really matter if your soul needs it? If you found out later, okay, fine. But you went to France, and talk about, I love how she says you wanted to get lost there, but what was the draw, and did it fulfill your heart?
Well, why draw for going to France?
Yeah.
So, I came to the point where I needed to choose a degree in college, and I chose French mostly because it's what opened my heart and I loved it. And I'd always be a body worker nevertheless. And so um, I kind of came to the point where my mind said, well, if you're going to have a degree in French, you better be fluent in it. And so it was sort of a rational thing. And there was this drive. There was like, I need to do this. I have to do it. And for me, like after the NDE, that intuitive drive was like on high. I couldn't argue with it. Sometimes it would just be like, you're going on, and despite my arguments. And that was sort of the feeling with going to France. And then once you start the ball in motion, it kind of snowballs, and there's no way of backing out. So once I decided to do that, then it was just a matter of steps to do it. But when I chose where to go, I just went and put my finger on a map, the furthest place south, and and chose that way, and then realized that was the best place for me to go. Um, and once I had the intuitive hit or something, then my rational mind can easily jump in and justify it or do the research or do the due diligence just to make sure it makes sense. It's that initial opening towards something. We do it every day. You meet someone and you're like, oh, I want to talk to this person. And then your mind says, oh, it's because I like this about them and I like that about them. But the initial impulse is this opening that happens. And so if we can pay attention to our own core channel, our own frequency, and notice when it expands and is drawn towards something, it's
Yeah.
easier to navigate the world when we can notice that, rather than noticing it and then discrediting it or getting mad at yourself because it's not right to judge or whatever else we do to criticize ourselves about it.
I would even like to take that a step further. I mean, I'm using your life as an example because you're pretty bold. And I love the fact that you were so, because I see myself in you, is that you were so nervous, but you did it anyway when you were done. It was so funny because my husband Clay, who's on here, hey Clay, he was like, "Oh my God, when you got her going," I said she was like so excited, laughing, and Shawna was so funny. I was like, I know, and it's funny because I do remember a long time you being interviewed on something that I saw on Gaiam, and when you were telling your story, I was like, I identify with that girl. I really like her, but it took me a while to figure you were the same person.
Um,
Like talking about the party scene, and then like we all go through something, it
yeah,
can,
yeah.
whatever it is. I mean, some people say, oh, I went to a very, oppressive church, and I didn't like that. I mean, you don't know. People all go through all sorts of stuff, but let's talk about, I want to talk about blockages because, Colleen talked about blockages and having blockages. So to me, blockages is emotional trash you pick up along the way with life. Yeah, some can be past life. Let's just stick to this freaking life. You can pick up enough garbage with just this life. And to me, that's back to where your fear, when you have any kind of fear or misemotion, that is not okay. You can look at it this way: it's not coming from a God place. It's coming, most of the time, the fear isn't even real. But when you think about things that make you happy and smile and you're passionate about, like just something silly like dancing or petting your dog, or you don't
It
have,
expands you.
it expands you and you feel happy. And, there are things, let's use real examples. So, Colleen, go ahead and tell me right now something that your heart is pulling you to. Let's do some real examples.
In talking about those contractions, like you said, while she's typing that up, contraction, I like to call them undigested experiences. They're usually something that happened that made us believe a certain way, usually happening during childhood, that made us believe a certain way about the world. And then we just keep running that program over and over. And minds are like that. They're like the water flowing through the sand to the ocean. They keep the same rut every time unless you stop it. So, your mind is always going to be afraid or run this fear program because it's learned in this early experience that's no longer even serving you anymore, but we just keep doing it because we've always been doing it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, I'm just thinking about you being despite training, you're a born healer. I think you're born into things. You may be a born like musician, you have a natural proclivity, but then you may go get training, but you're kind of born into that direction a lot, or whatever that direction is. And I'm thinking, man, the healers, they have to learn to heal themselves first. How did you learn to do that?
Well, I had a lot of help. A lot of initially the healing was done, especially after the accident and stuff, was done, just by sheer determination and I had a mom who was just convinced that I was going to be fine. And, her just belief in that also helped. And I think the belief in that of others. I mean, we have a tribe around each of us, and that really helps. To have that energy coming too. But it's really just stepping into that sense of knowing I can do this. And then being open to where the universe draws you. I tend to look at the world like it's always spirit speaking to me. Everything that happens is spirit speaking. And so, our problems today with sound, who knows what that's all about, but for some reason it needed to happen, or one time, for instance, there was an episode going on with a parent at my son's school, and something had happened between her kid and my kid, and her kid got expelled, and it was really seemed a little bit weird. And I wished I could talk to that mom, and for some reason it didn't work out. One day I was driving, and I just felt like my car just drove right into a grocery outlet, and I was like, "Where are we going?" "Oh, I'm going over here, the vitamin shop." And I got out and I'm like, "Where are we going?" And I just felt drawn inside, and I go in, I run into that mom, and we had a great conversation. It's about knowing and allowing yourself to be drawn places. And if you don't feel the draw, then, sometimes I'll go out and I'm like, let's just see where we feel drawn to go. And sometimes I don't feel drawn, and sometimes I do, but it's really practicing that. And then also really being aware and noticing when messages come. It may be in a song that you hear. It may be in a billboard that you pass. It may be a book title that you happen to see in the library. You never know where it's going to come from. But if you consider that it's always spirit communicating with you, then you look for those answers. And then your mind can jump in with all its rationalizations to make sure that you're not kidding yourself. But don't let it jump in and say, that doesn't make sense. Just jump in and say, hey, wow, isn't it really interesting? I had that question and this showed up. For instance, here's a little story. So one time I was at the library with my son. We're upstairs in the kids section, and there's not a lot for me in the kids section. And suddenly I just get this hit. I need to go downstairs and look for a book. And I was like, okay. So I go downstairs, and I'm kind of wandering the stacks, feeling where I feel most drawn to, because I don't know what I'm even doing down there. I never have time to read a book when he was 5, And then I ended up in front of this one stack, and it was all spiritual books and stuff like that. So I wasn't surprised I ended up there. And I was like, look, I don't know what I'm looking for. And then one book was just sort of stuck out. And it happened to be this book on UFOs and NDEs having parallels.
Oh yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah.
It was so fascinating. And, I'd had a bunch of clients coming at that time about UFOs and wanting information. And I was like, what is up with all of this? So, that was really fascinating. So if you just stay open to spirit guiding you, rather than it's where you put your center of gravity. If your center of gravity towards the world is abundant and the world is helping me, or is it towards the world is not helping me and it's against me? Because either way, that's what you'll see.
Yes, I agree. And that's how I lived my life years ago when I owned an advertising agency, 27 years. It was a little bit chunk of my life. I went to school for that and all of that, artist and designer and writer. And it was like, that's not how I did things. I did things by planograms and things of the world, and I would write it out. I would make a decision who I'm going after as clients. And then when God changed my heart, I mean, it was like it was, I hate to name 12 years, 14 years of like a difficult, dark time because I had to let the old self go and die. And when the new self reemerged, it was a process. Um, I was called into service, and now I wait for spirit, and they tell me exactly what I need to do. And honestly, I don't know why I did not surrender earlier because it's so much better.
Yeah,
So much better.
it's so much easier.
It's so much easier just to listen. And I didn't do a good job as God does because He knows all our needs and what we need. And there's a big team, over there
Yeah.
and here helping us. We're so not alone.
And there's always good practices that help us stay in that too. There's all the law of attraction information out there, all those books about that's helpful. There's all the, oh gosh, I can name a bunch of books. There's tons of books out there just on how to keep your mind in an expansive place or in a place that allows it to be guided.
Well, right. And I think that to me, it's being silent and staying in that stillness and just waiting. I always get answers because I know that they come. But it does start with me as a question. Well, what do I do? What do I do? This or that? And then I feel
Yeah,
my center. And
right.
then I also wait. And also in the physical world, I don't just get like, oh, blah, blah, blah in my head. Sometimes I do. But other times I get physical things in the universe responding to me, not in the way that I thought. I could get it in a freaking fortune cookie. I could get it in the back of
Right.
like a card tag, but then
Right.
it'll give me the answer. Like it's not up to us to tell spirit, meaning God, the great spirit, or spirit team
How
God.
to communicate with us, right?
No, they know. They're like, it's just like I learned a long time ago that with spirit, they could give a message to like an audience. I was doing, they could give a message that could mean 6 things. And I'll say, hold
Right.
on, we're not done. Okay, keep going. They go, well, which one is that? I said, it's all of them. We can't talk like that. So if they can think in multiplicities or whatever,
Sure.
why,
Why
we don't,
can't we? Right.
why can't we? So,
Yeah, and I think to your point, when you feel that message, like when you see that billboard and it's a message to you or that car tag or whatever, there's also a knowingness that happens. There's an expansion to it. There's a part of you that's like, oh, that's for me, isn't it? Right.
right,
So that's another tip because I know a lot of my clients, a lot of people are like, yeah, but how do I trust it? How do I know it's not just a random thing? But it's like when you're you're going to buy a red car, you see red cars everywhere, right? You fixate your mind on what you need, and then the answers come.
right, absolutely. Well, I think but here's the thing, and one thing I want to touch upon, where, and, with your story, Shawna, and how you've changed and pivoted, and you're going, oh, when you were a very young girl, you're like, oh, I don't think I want to cross this line, and then
Hmm.
you move here, and then you move to different places, and you go, let me go here, and then you went to like what that seminar, and then you go, okay, let me move into here. The thing is, it never ends with us.
Right,
It
right,
never ends. It's like right now, I'm doing a lot of work. I didn't expect it, and I have to chuckle because I really like it and like the people. But like with South Africa, like they have
right,
South African and UK mediums. Like I didn't plan that, but I just really like them. I'm having a giggle with them. They're a lot of fun. I'm doing something very early in the morning because of time difference. 7 a.m. That's early for me. I'm not early, but I'm more a second shifter. And I'm thinking, when I say, well, that's interesting, but you know what? I don't know if it's long term, short term. I don't know. You don't know who, even friendships, if they're short or long term. But here's the other thing: why can't you just enjoy the moment?
right. Why can't exactly,
I,
exactly,
I like everybody.
exactly.
I'm having a
Well,
blast.
and that's another thing, you mentioned a minute ago, like, I don't know what to do. And like, I see Colleen says something like, I don't know what to do for work. I'm stuck there. But, one of the things that I often see is like, it's maybe the question isn't about what do I do? Maybe the question is, who do I want to be? And there's always things that we're doing that keep us in a sense of what we like about who we're being and what we don't like, right? And I think in America, especially, in the West, we're so committed to doing and to doing and to pushing ourselves out there. And maybe it's more about being, because even in following the guidance, it's about that sense of beingness, and then you're drawn to it. You don't have to do anything.
Well, I think the whole I am, series is the whole I am. You don't say, I want to be a ballerina. You don't want to say that. You want to say, I am. And someone say, well, you haven't, I haven't taken the classes yet. But, the thing is, the way that God sees us, he doesn't see us as a future and a timeline. We see ourselves as a timeline.
Sure.
On the other side is all flattened out. It's all just a oneness of who you are. And we're just facets of who we are, and in segments of things that we've done that collectively add up to this life, who we decide that we're going to be. But the whole thing, what are you going to be when you grow up?
I'm going to be happy. How about that?
Well, get happy. That's
I'm going to be joyful. I'm going to spread love everywhere. Right? I mean, how about being that instead of having to be a thing, right? I mean, not to say that you don't need to have a career and you don't need to sustain yourself, not to say that, but that, I've met some really darn happy garbage collectors, that have a really rich spiritual life, and they read great books, and they just deliver trash for their living, and I've also met some that aren't that happy, but why does it have, why do we have to identify with what we're doing all the time, and instead come from the sense of being, and then allow our doing to come from being?
I agree. I think that it has to do with what we automatically do it anyway. We're drawn to our passions. Like you said, you were drawn to the book on UFO and NDEs, which actually I kind of drew into that. I had Cheryl Gottschalk, if you know her. She's from I don't know if she's from Sydney. She's from the Australia area, but she was on one of my things, and she was saying she worked with Kenneth Ring, who did research in this area. And I said, "Oh my God, I didn't have an idea about that." One of the stories she was telling me, which is on the video and the channel, but she was talking about that someone that she was speaking to a case, and that they were in that altered state, like a human near-death experiencer. And when they saw the light, the beings, they saw a little gray thing. And he was like, all, like a little gray alien, was the big heads. And he was sad, and she felt sorry for him. And I thought, wow, I guess they could be over there too.
Yeah, what's the soul anyway, right? I mean, where does the soul come from? I mean, we talk about that, and we talk about spirit. I mean, maybe they are more like aliens. You never know. It's all consciousness.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we've been so many things too. And one of the things I want to say, that I think that when I surrender and I just say, let your will be done, meaning my highest good, bring me, like you said, rest your head back. I'm thinking, I'm like pulled from my chest, like my heart, pull my heart to the direction.
Right.
And some people do that with friendships, relationships, spouses, and I would say 9 out of 10 times that works, because we got the world still working. Somebody's together.
Right.
Not everybody's divorced. And so I would say on the whole that does work. But when it comes to our own soul self and following our intuition, our heart, we don't always do that. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. And I think it's because we keep wanting to say the one word, and that is why. Where's this coming from? Well, you should never doubt where it's coming from. You're never alone. Is your soul merged with your team of people, team God, that's helping you, trying to find your way and your path. But see, our path changes.
It does change.
What might have been good, like you were talking about when you were young. When I was at the bar and I was younger, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. And I really don't have a regret, because I got that out of my system, and I'm completely not interested in that at all.
Right.
And I feel like, yeah, I did it. I really lived it up. I'm over it. And now I don't have any regrets about that.
Sure.
And so, but that was who I was then. That's not who I am now. And we evolve and we change, and we need to give ourselves permission to go to whatever that next step is. I mean, it could be a very active stage of life for you, or it could be like, look, I need to pull back some. I need to center. I need more solitude, so I can really listen and really savor time with spirit.
Well, I think that it always kind of starts with that pullback time, just a moment to go within and be like, especially when you're making a big transition or you're ready to make a transition, it's like, where have I been and what in that worked for me and who did I like I was being in that moment and what do I want to bring forth from that in the future? Like in relationships, every relationship you've had served you in some way. So what was it that worked? And then, moving forward, that's something you may want to keep and let go of the rest, and what didn't work, then go for the opposite. What is it that would work in that?
Well, and the other thing we were talking about, I think, be really living, and I wanted to talk about the money too, because she said, the money.
I saw that.
There is a transition. Okay. And we're going to talk about this. If you decide you want to do something, there's a transition. You necessarily like dump the stuff you're doing. You may have to ease into it. But it's like, and the other aspect is, I used to make a ton more money than I make now, a ton. But I don't plan. I mean, look, I would do things for service and for God and to help people anytime. Just because if I'm told to do it, I'll do it. Not an issue. Happy to do it. But I plan to make that once again. Okay. But sometimes there's a transition. You have to follow your heart to get to the, like when you moved from, where was it that you moved? And then you moved to California and they're not
from Kansas.
Kansas, not very good money and people in the healing and what, but then you moved to California, it was like gangbusters.
Right.
And
Well, kind of, but when I moved to California, I didn't have a practice. I had to build that up, and it's taken me several years to do that. So, there was a big, dive in that at the beginning, just because things didn't work out the way we thought they were. But we had a little bit of stability, but not all kind of collapsed at the beginning. But you're right. I mean, it's just about trusting and moving little by little towards things sometimes too.
And I also think that sometimes people are hard on themselves. The thing is, I mean, I'm just going to go here and you just chime in what you think on this, Shawna. But when I went through, I always wanted to, I remember being, really small, 3 or 4 years old. And I used to love that show, Bewitched. She would, and then she would magically, and I thought, oh, this is so cool. And then I also like Darren with his advertising. So it's funny, I ended up being both of them. I own an advertising agency, 27 years, and I am Samantha. And so I really, enjoyed that. That's what I wanted to do. I was so like, intrigued by that. And so that was something I always knew. People wanted to know what they were going to do. I was like, I already know I'm going to be an advertising executive. And I already knew that. So I was great. So when I did that and I did well at it, and then there were ups and downs, but overall I did well. I mean, it paid for a lot of things for us and a career, and it was very nice. But then when you get so far and you kind of win the game, or you kind of decode the game and you go, okay, this is it. These people are kind of shallow. I mean, I'm just saying my conclusions. These are my assessments only. Okay, not saying anyone in marketing, because the marketing still, you can see, I still use it.
But there wasn't a resonance with those people. There was something that didn't open you and resonate with you.
But it did for years.
Right, until it didn't.
Until it did. And then what happened is I was evolving. Because I felt discontentment. And because I was starting to shift. And then when I finally realized all the people I helped, and they didn't give a crap about helping me, and I thought, God, if I died tomorrow, these people really wouldn't care. And I was winning awards and doing all these things because it made me feel accomplished. Because I, growing up, didn't feel I had like a lot of self-worth. I was told I'd never accomplish anything and all this. It was horrible. So that was good. I did that, but then I thought, God, there's got to be more than selling industrial tools and hardware components for, as advertising to corporations, even big ones. I'm like, there's got to be more. So what happened is through that transition, I held on to it so hard because I decided I am as powerful. I'm telling you, be careful saying I am. If you say I am, there's some powerful stuff. You
will be. That you are.
If you think you're a dullard and you haven't been able to find the right person, you need to say I am sexy and something's going to happen. I'm serious. Right. You might be 100 years old. I mean, you just I am as powerful. And
Yep.
so I said, I am an advertising executive. And so even I would not let my old self go. And it was, it's a good thing I didn't end in the hospital like a lot of NDErs when they don't listen when they're called in. But I lost my business, but I didn't lose my husband. I did not lose my house. I have a lot to be grateful for. I about lost my damn mind. And I remember being at a Thai restaurant, counting out enough money to eat the lunch at the Thai restaurant when I used to make so much. And so what is that moment? That moment was humility.
Right.
That was a humble
Oh
ass.
yeah, I've stood, when I came to California, stood in line at the food pantry. I know what it's all about.
And I think that if you don't learn humility, and you're gonna learn one way or the other. And so once I went through all that and I came to a place of nothingness, you think, what is that? And I don't mean an NDE nothingness. I've done that a few times, and it's you just are, but it feels kind of nice. But anyway, it was like, what do I do? I don't. And then I thought, who am I? And then I came to the place where I'm really nothing. I was nothingness. But then I saw life happening around me. When I stripped that away, it was a very long process. It really was 14 years. And I stripped it away. And in between, I tried a lot of different things. I owned a ladies' boutique, and I was going back almost like you do in college when you try different courses. And the very, 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 very thing I did not want anyone to know. You know where I'm going with this. Yeah, because that's what you are too. Yeah. And that it's the very thing that God wanted me to use my gifts to help people in this world. And I'm like, oh God, please not that. And so I started getting, I tried years to get spiritual, and I was getting actually direct information from God himself, and then Christ. I was like, again, I'm so hard-headed, I don't listen for a while. But yeah, it's because if I had just surrendered and just said, okay, but I didn't. I wanted to hold on to that I am, because I had worked so hard to develop that persona.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine there couldn't have been a better one, because this persona had really great matching suits with Louis Vuittons and went on really nice trips. And I couldn't imagine that. But I have to say that this is my true soul self. And, just stepping out, being myself, some people give me crap, and I'm like, I can't help it. I mean, if you're really a zebra, you can't say I'm a painted horse.
Right. No, I totally get it. I had a client the other day. He asked me, "Do you ever stop being the healer? Do you ever step out of that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I guess I never do. I just always wear that." But now with doing more public events, it's drawing me out in that way, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And it is sort of, sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you just open to it, then there you go. You're there.
Well,
Like you said, you don't understand the whole thing, the whole process, but sometimes it gets so loud you can't deny it.
Well, and I think we started out this whole thing about things were going wonky wonk today. It started out with you,
Right.
and then I'm stressed. Instead of going, hey, and sharing the love, with Shawna, I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, I don't like to be that freaked out person. And we're like, oh boy, and adaptability. But I think that, you roll. I don't like that word, because I don't like adapting to anything. I'm very rebellious in that way. I like the word rolling with it.
Right.
Okay, rolling with it, but I had to find my center, come back to me, what matters, what doesn't, and rolling with it. The other aspect of it is, part of rolling with it is letting things roll off.
Right.
And
not holding on to it. I mean, the things that we hold on to, it's just craziness. That's those undigested experiences that they stay, attached to us because we just keep spinning them and spinning them and spinning them, right? And that's part of that mind thing of like retraining the mind. When you realize that the mind is just spinning it, oh, this is just like that experience that happened. Ah! And when you just keep spinning and spinning, you got to stop it and be like, oh, we're going to do it differently now.
well, the thing is, I think that you are okay. So when I started the Seeking Heaven show, and then we're doing the live chat, we're gonna get this so down. This is gonna be like so slick before it's all over with. This is gonna be rocking. But you know what? There's multiple issues like putting this together. Just an example of this show, because like you were nervous, I had a lady that said, "Oh my God, I used to be with the Frangelican church of, like this high order, and oh my God, they don't know I do like channeled spirit art." She was terrified. She'll be on next Thursday. I was like, and I said, who do you think is talking to you? I'm like,
Right.
the same way. I mean, and so I grew up, she said Baptist, and I was said, she was Scottish. I said, well, mine was, Presbyterian, and then some atheism with some family. And I said, don't worry about it. And I said, you're beautiful. I mean, she's a beautiful person, but she was terrified. So even doing this is not, if it's not technical issues, that people don't understand that when I have people that agree to come on the show and talk, I mean, it means a lot. It touches my very soul to that, not only that you trust yourself, but you trust me, because I totally 1,000,000,000% would never do anything to embarrass anyone.
Of course.
And I would do nothing but give them love and support. And I would never say, don't say anything you don't feel comfortable with, period.
Yeah, well, and the times are changing too, I mean, when we were talking on the show, I was trying just to blaze through and give a quick synopsis of my NDE so we can get on to the good stuff and talk. But, as I was rushing through all that, I'm sorry, I just totally forgot what I was talking about.
No, that's okay, because it was so funny. I had to chuckle because a client was saying that, Tamara, you always have technical issues. And I said, I was telling her, I'm going to tell Spirit that you need to stop those issues, because it's about the truth. But it's funny, we all have whatever issues to push through, but you push through to do that.
Yes.
You push through today to do that.
Right. Thank you for helping me with that brain block. Even in the beginning of our talk, we were talking about like my life in the bar and my life as a stripper and all that stuff. And that has been such a shame thing for me, especially coming from Kansas, where that's really looked down upon. And to have you say, hey, I got friends that do that. We all kind of wanted to be like that person. And I'm like, wow, really? Like, changed or something.
Okay, girl, let me tell you what. This is so synchronicity. So the lady I was talking to, you're gonna love, she's from Scotland, she's cool. She's so funny. We were talking about how people judge, and I said, they're going to judge you regardless. If you were some little sweet person, did everything right, and had the house and the husband and the kids, they're still gonna judge you. But even when people go, oh, I can't believe, look at her wearing that outfit. Look how tight. They're just jealous because they want to be able to wear the outfit. Right? It's always,
and how many of us are always judging ourselves? I mean, that comes back to that intuition thing. We get an intuition about something, I don't really resonate with this person. And then we're like, oh, that's so bad of me to judge. Why am I judging like that? And then we start, stopping our intuition because we think we're judging ourselves. Or we are judging ourselves. We think we're judging others.
Well, I have been doing this, we go through phases of things we learn. And I've gone through different phases of different things. Went 3 years of discernment. That's I don't even know when I'll be. I'll have to make sure a few more people like me first before I go there, because that was I learned though. Let me tell you what, I learned that lesson. And sometimes they're short, but right now I've been learning a lot about judgment. And Jesus came to me and said, I want to talk to you about judgment, because I taught to him. He's my teacher. And I said, oh, me judging people. So I just automatically assume, that it's me judging people. Let me look at, I didn't think I was.
I'm bad because I'm judging people. And
maybe I am judging people. And then he was like, no, you don't get it. People are trapped because they judge. And when they judge, they're really judging themselves. When you go blah, 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 it's almost like they're holding a mirror and the energy goes back on them.
Exactly.
And he said, it's so chronic, the judgment. And it's basically being critical of self. And he said, because we've been talking about people will, and you'll see like on some of these social media sites, I don't know if you've noticed, but they'll say like the most horrible things to people. Have you noticed that? And like,
judgment is usually just a comparison. It's a comparison of that outside thing to what your standard of perfection is, which is usually what you hold for yourself too, right?
Yes, I'm laughing about the pole dance thing. I don't know if I could get, with the COVID, I need to get in better shape. I used to exercise all the time, but yeah, I think it'd be fine. I don't know where I could put a pole.
I've thought about it too. I'm like, it was great exercise. I'd really like to get that strength again.
I really had to be strong. So, but equal rights, then Clay would have to do it too. And he's like, no, no, no. But going back, about judgment, I think two things. I've been getting messages lately from my teacher, Jesus, and he's been saying people are are complicating things. They're overcomplicating things. They're judging others sharply without consequence. You know, like harsh words, like quick, like be careful what you say. Words are harmful. Be mindful. You know, you used to hear that maybe from your grandparents. You know, don't treat others like you want to be treated. And that the judgment, and also that people have a lack of self-love, but also that we complicate things. So I keep getting lessons, but it's all around judgment is starting to open up. It's not just about judgment. It comes why people do that. And there's
Yeah,
something.
and it's important to distinguish between judgment and discernment. You know, because sometimes you judge yourself for judging someone when you're actually just having discernment.
Yeah, that's true too. Well, if someone's coming at you with a knife, you want to say they're a bad person. Yeah, they probably are. Their discernment is like, you know what? They're a little nutty. Maybe I need to go the other way. So discernment is something else. Discernment is like, wow, this person talks in negativities. They're always critical. They always
Or
put up.
it could just be that I contract around this person and that's
And
simple enough.
yeah, and it makes me feel bad, and I don't really want to be around that energy. I wish them well, but I some people may think it's funny, but for me, it's hurtful. I'm a sensitive person. That would hurt my energy, right? And that's discernment. It's discerning your soul, what you need. Like there's some TV shows where they have humor. I think it's very cruel. And
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sarcasm and stuff. Yeah, sure, totally.
mean jokes, and I'm like, that's not funny. So it's really what discernment for your own soul. But I find that that's why I feel like we need so much more love these days, and also love for ourselves. And here's the biggest thing: I think that during this time of growth and change, automatically the whole world, right?
Right.
And we're not, we are united because of technology, even though technology is a little crazy sometimes. But we are united by technology because we can actually be together. Like I said, I want to be a South African UK call
Right.
tomorrow because
Right.
it's technology. Okay, who would have
Right.
thought? And talking to Scotland yesterday, technology. So that's great. But what I find talking to people is that they absolutely think and feel the same things we do here. It doesn't matter if
Yep.
you're
Yep.
in the USA
There's the
or
same people everywhere, just in different quantities, right?
and it's so funny because they go, "Oh, you're having problems with election." They go, "Oh, we got problems too." I said, "You do?
Totally.
Let me tell you." And then I start learning about different people's environments. But the main thing is that we're human and we're people, and we all, there has been a shift and a change for everyone. It's a great opportunity, I think, to. I mean, you can use the COVID as an excuse. I mean, it's great. You can actually, it's gotten me out of things that I don't have to do anymore. It's
Right.
right.
Yeah, you know, and I think masks are fascinating. It's like Spirit said, hey, let's cover up their face so that nobody can see what their fake smiles are, and they are absolutely obligated to look each other in the eyes. I
Yeah.
mean,
I,
isn't
and
that great?
I think that the whole mask thing, yeah, absolutely red flags. Absolutely. Yeah. You don't need to know why. Do you need to stay in a relationship with whoever it is 6 months to find out the thing you knew the first 2 minutes? Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking at what being said here. Yeah. Self-judgment and so forth. Yeah. Discernment is critical. And yes, Clay, it can save your life because sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes you're having discernment and you judge yourself thinking you're judging and you're not. You're just discerning.
Like, absolutely, and I think that people that are sensitive or really they have to really think about what they say before they say it. Probably don't have that problem, but it's people that just say it, and we need to be mindful because we need to spread joy, and those words manifest. We manifest because our words actually have vibration and energy, and they manifest. So when we
Totally.
say ugly, we put that in the world, that ugly gray matter. It's just terrible.
I
And
mean,
then,
thoughts are things, but words are even stronger.
right. And then you end up with which is not such a bad thing, with Shawna as a healer. And then you're trying to remove all this that looks like gray matter around you, which is all this negative talk, right? Because
Right.
it affects our psyche because that's not I
It
don't think.
affects who we allow ourselves to be, right?
Yes, we're back to be, do, and have. So the be, you be
You
yourself,
know,
and then you have, and it was
or
fun. Go ahead.
or there's that whole thing, what would it feel like to be an angel? Oh,
Yeah.
let's try that on, right? What would it feel like to be loving today? What would
Yes.
it feel like to be a cat? Or something, I'm just being silly, but who do you want to be today?
Right. And you can decide that. But I think here's the other thing too, when we're talking about discernment, I think it has to do with our environment. We were talking about that. Colleen mentioned about the dolphin and the ocean. I said, yeah, I love the ocean. I want to, and like you moved to California, I'm like, how can we get to the ocean? I love the ocean. I feel so free. And, so you think, what is it that makes you feel free? Well, some people, when you get out of the maybe 9 to 5 world, right, or whatever you want to call it, the rat race, the treadmill, and you start evolving. Okay, it takes some of this. It doesn't have to take years. It can be immediate if it's meant to, but sometimes it does take a while. And when you evolve, you have to develop your own support system, your own tribe, your own community. And sometimes the things you want to do, you cannot do in that community. Like for example, with you in Kansas, how far do you think you could have gotten with your practice? I mean, not judging Kansas, but I'm saying that certain places are more receptive to certain type of alternative treatments. Don't
I
you think?
mean, I was in Lawrence, Kansas, which is a pretty open-minded sort of healers mecca. Like every state has one, much like Austin or, Sedona or something like that. So, I was pretty successful there and doing just fine, but I couldn't have taken it to the next level. I couldn't have moved out into areas where I could actually meet people who are doing some really healing and interesting things in the world, right? Where here I have that capacity. I mean, there's some amazing people that are just living in the vicinity that I live in.
Well, and look at it this way. Just look at the near-death experience community. Um, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like because if someone has been through it, and I really genuinely think they have. I'm not saying, I think most people don't lie about it. I really do. And if someone did, that's just weird. But when I'm saying my heart has grace and kindness, and I kind of give exception because it's bad. It's tough enough as a regular person to fit in the world, but when you've had a near-death experience, you think, oh gosh, I'm going to be judged. I did not want to come out for years.
Yeah,
And,
I didn't either.
and I didn't want anyone to take it away from me because
Mm-hmm.
it's sacred. And so I have so much love and like really deep love for people in near-death experiencers, even if I'm a different kind of person than them, because especially if they speak out, because I know how hard it is. And I have so much love. With that said, I'm kind of hoping this is building a community of just being able to talk because near-death experience are not stuck in the past with that encounter, but
Mm-hmm.
still they're living that experience is become a part of who they are, and they
And it's
have
unfolding every day more and more, right? It brings you deeper into deeper and deeper understandings.
absolutely. And so we are a living slice of that other side. And maybe only it's because we have a memory of that, or some people may not understand, but a lot of that comes in the form of trauma. I hate to say it. So it's not like, oh, whoopity doo, everybody goes, oh, it's so great. It's trauma associated with that. And so I don't want to leave that part out. Trauma in life, and then trauma maybe leading up to it, right? It was for me horrible. And then the actual incident, which I'm not into pain. Don't like pain. When the pain's not there and you're like, that's different. That's fine. I have so much respect. So this is hopefully building a community of just being
Yeah,
safe, a safe place. And I don't want limits. And I don't want to say you can say this, you can't. I said, quite honestly, I don't care what you say. I don't even care if I agree with you. I just wanted a place that people can feel free, because there's not always places that are like that, or they have limitations. And I don't think we should limit ourselves. And
definitely not.
you shouldn't limit other people as well. So why don't we do this? We're getting close to the end of the hour. Why don't we do this? And why don't we just, really do something, as far as Shawna, that would give people a peace and a center, a little bit of a meditation type thing, and then let people know with your healing, services, how they can get in touch with you, because it's really well rounded and it's intuitive, and you go and you medically see what's wrong with them and you do whatever's necessary. And I know you also do long distance too, right? You can do
Yes,
remote.
I do work over the phone and by Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So, and she'll let you know as well. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. So it's just shawnaristic.com, right? And they can get a hold of you.
www.shawnaristic.com. And we can book with me online there on my website and everything.
Right. And if you have a question, you're not sure or whatever, if she can help you or not, just her email will be there and she can help you with that. But I know that for a fact that that Shawna, you are a beautiful angelic soul.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming back and helping the world, because you know what? I need help. I can't do this alone.
I'm here to help you. No problem.
Thank you.
Yes, I can.
And take us out on a beautiful meditation, something that just really centers us with peace and honoring ourselves.
So just allow a moment to center and allow your attention to draw within you. And maybe draw back all the parts of you that have been scattered around the day and throughout the world, allowing those parts to come back in, welcoming them home. And then just bringing your attention to your mind and to that headspace and all the thoughts and the ideas that want to spin around in the mind, and even the light coming through the crown chakra and just all that illumination in the head. And isn't it amazing, all the things you can think? But then allowing yourself to drop even deeper down into the body, into the core channel, into that space below the head, from the base of the head to the pubic bone. That essence that you are, that core light that you are, where you get your gut instincts, where you feel your heart expand, that essence that you are. And you may feel it, you may visualize it, you may sense it in any way, just dropping into you. And then allowing yourself to expand that light and fill your whole body with your light. And then allowing yourself to expand even further around the body to the space that most of us spend time in, this outside space, aware of the external world. But I'm inviting you to do it this time from the inside out, so that you can be your whole self in this world and allow the world to guide you and to draw you to it. And allowing the earth's energy to come up through your feet and fuel this core channel, as well as the divine energy to come from heaven down through the crown, so that you're not a closed circuit, but we're all in our heads anyway. So let's pay attention to the middle part. Allowing your expansion to be around you and to feel the world, and just setting your intention that you will feel your vibration and how the world impacts it and influences it, so that you can respond rather than react. May you be able to live with your whole self and move through the world with your whole self. Open your eyes when you're ready.
That's good. I like that. You know what I saw when you said go, inside and step outside of yourself and look at it from outside, which I like living outside of there. So thanks for promoting that. I saw myself dancing around myself and in different colors.
Great.
I was so pretty. All my colors were so pretty.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, so let yourself be that rainbow of colors.
Yeah, I like being the rainbow. It's so pretty. Yeah, I was like, oh, and I was dancing.
So what does it feel like to be that, right?
To be the rainbow. I was dancing around as the rainbow, and everywhere I would dance, I had colors, rainbow, soft colors, bright color, but they were soft but bright. and I had little sparkles everywhere. When I walked, I left sparkles. I mean, well, why not? We're spiritual being. What about if
Yeah.
we thought we left rainbows everywhere? Wouldn't that be pretty?
Yeah, it'd be beautiful. Why not send rainbows around you?
Yeah, yeah. You can put rainbows around other people. It's definitely a start in a positive direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think my client has arrived.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Unfortunately, you need to go. You're welcome.
Yeah, this ended up being beautiful, and we will stay in touch and do more fun things. And
Yeah,
thank you again.
totally here to help if I can help in any way.
Oh, you are an inspiration to many, and thank you so much from my heart and all the people that will be watching this too. So
Thanks,
God
Tim.
bless you. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye.